guys. My name is Okema T. Like she said, I'm so excited to be here. I remember when SoulCanvas was just an idea in Eumoria's head, and then she introduced me to Tamika, and when she started to build it, I just watched my friend in awe. You ever have a friend and you watch them in awe as they do like the magic that they do, and you're just like, I see you, girl. I see you. And so to now be here tangibly, seeing this audience, listening to these amazing speakers, being able to be a part of it myself, it's so beautiful, but it's also a testament to the fact that we literally are the things we think. This was a thought, an idea. And actually, when she first had the thought, it wasn't even this. It was, this sister is powerful. I want to do something with this sister. And when I say this sister, I mean Tamika. And so she thought about trying to help and do something for someone else. And then they created this whole thing. So like, can we just have a quick round of applause for Eumoria and Tamika giving us this place and space? So today we are having a conversation. It's our soul sister conversation. Now, the people that I am calling up are powerhouses, like powerhouses. I have my own little thing that I look at or think about for each of them. They're gonna laugh, I'm sure. But today's talk is not about their resumes. You can read those on the site. They are all supremely accomplished, so you can Google them, baby. That's what the little kids say, right? Google me. Well, you could Google them and get all the information about them. Today, we are going to talk about the heart of what we do and why we do it. Because this is about wellness, right? And a lot of times in this business, you can be very unwell and still have to show up. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's all right? All right. So coming to the stage are four amazing, amazing women that I admire and like from some of them secretly have stalked for a while. First, we have my Philly John, Miss Kelly Park. She is a director, an acting coach turned director. I'm gonna let her introduce. I'm gonna let the ladies give you their version of who they are because I feel like that's important in this moment. So I'm just gonna call them up. So as I call you up, ladies, if you can come to the stage. So we have my Philly John, Miss Kelly Park. We have, you could just call her the doc because this is stays in a lab. Hey, Avril, come on up, Avril Speaks. She has done every prestige lab you can think of, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know how to get in them, ask her. The beautiful vulnerability, but also the stunning fashion of this girl makes me excited. Please welcome the amazing Miss Krystal Franklin. You better be a gentleman, sir. I see you. And last but never least, my baby, because she was one of my producing fellows, so I take I'm very partial to her. And her last name is it belies exactly all of who she is, Miss Gem Little. But it's the big gem, not the little one. So first of all, ladies, welcome and thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. I'm just going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, what you're about. Let the people know who they looking at. We'll start with you, Kelly.
All right. Hey, guys. Everybody cool? Everybody good? Yes, I'm Kelly Park. I am a director. I'm a writer and a producer from Philly John. Hey. Yes. And started as an acting coach and transitioned to directing. It was kind of mind-blowing how I did it, but there's different ways into the house. It's not just the front door. There's a little tiny window in the basement that you can kind of crawl through.
No, that's not creepy.
And I did. I crawled through that window. But I'm also writing, and I sold a show recently to NBC, so I'm doing a thing. I'm doing a thing. Thank you.
Hi. So yeah, I'm Avril. I am a producer and director, showrunner. I work in both film and television. I think overall I just call myself a storyteller. I just love good story. And so whatever label that comes in, I'm down for it. So yeah, that's me. I'm also just an educator too. I also am big in education and mentorship. And I have a show coming out on Wednesday.
Yes.
Coming out on Netflix called Files of the Unexplained that I was the showrunner for. My producer is here. Yes, so please watch on April 3rd.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Hey, y'all. I'm Krystal. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I am a daughter. I'm a friend. Woman one day. That's who I am personally. Professionally, I am a producer, journalist, creative storyteller, worked for all the big names. And yeah, that's me. It's nice to meet you.
She's so
Thank
humble.
you.
It's cute. Look her up, y'all.
Thank you.
My name is Jim. I'm originally from Chicago, but I moved here by way of Indianapolis. I was an urban planner when I moved here, but I was always a filmmaker and found my way into film kind of accidentally. I ended up going to AFI on a whim, and ever since, I've been doing this full time. Right now, I'm a writer's assistant for an upcoming HBO show that's going to be really amazing. And that's about it. I'm a writer, producer, director.
It's funny that her show is on HBO. I mean, they're not partners anymore, but Max, it's not called HBO Max anymore, it's just Max. Jem's short that she did for the Black TV and Film Collective, Pens and Pencils, can be seen on Max. It is streaming.
Yeah, thank you, Okema.
So like I said, ladies, we know that in this business, especially as a woman, especially as a Black woman or a woman of color in general, it's not an easy place or space. And it can sometimes be very lonely and scary, right? So I want to first talk about betting on yourself. Tell me about when you felt you were ready, whether you were ready creatively, career-wise, or just internally to bet on yourself, and then you did it. Whoever wants to take it first.
You want me to? We both done. Okay. Yeah, that's a fantastic question because it's so hard to know what that means, to know where exactly you need to start. So there was a show on Netflix called Alexa and Katie, which I loved, and I was the acting coach there. And it was third season, and I knew, I was like, I gotta direct. I have to make this jump. There's no, I'm getting old, you know what I mean? I gotta go, you know what I'm saying? And I was never afraid to ask. I'm never afraid to open my mouth. So I wasn't afraid, I just needed to know logistically, is this the right time? So they called me and they were like, Alexa and Katie's coming back. You're our acting coach, you coming back, right? And I'm like, of course. And I need to direct. And there was no but, it was just, and this is what I need. Letting them know that I probably won't come back if you won't open this door for me. So a couple of people I worked with from Nickelodeon moved over to Netflix, and they knew me. They knew I was at Nickelodeon acting coaching as well. And they were like, yes. It was very simple. You can direct. You will allow you. I was like, what? Y'all know I'm Black up in here, right? You know what? Wait a minute. Wait a second. And it was very, it was very simple. And I directed, and at that point, I knew I can't go back to acting coaching because they won't see me as a director. So I have to sacrifice. I have to probably be jobless for a second. I didn't have an agent, and I stopped acting coaching. I just knew I had to stop. So I put that hat down, and I became a director, and I walked in the space as a director. I literally asked people for jobs. I spoke to people. I started to create relationships and friendships with producers, and which I already had, but now it was different. I needed them to see me as the leader now. And I did it, and I'm continuing to do it. So I never looked back, and that hat is still in the closet. I take it out every once in a while and kind of put my acting coach hat on. But I just knew. That's what happened for me.
So what I'm hearing is ask.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to ask, because it's no if you don't ask anyway.
Correct.
And when you bet on yourself, no matter if you're scared or nervous, be sure and make the bet. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what you're hearing.
Okay, so
Yes.
Anybody out here taking notes? Those are the notes.
Yeah. Yes.
Avril.
I kind of feel like my whole LA experience has been betting on myself, ever since I got here. But I will say, I think a moment that stands out in particular was I had kind of hit a crossroads. I I actually moved out here to LA when I hit a point in my career where I was like, I don't know about this whole film thing. I love it, but I'm going on 20 some odd years doing this. And at that time, I was just really like, yeah, I don't know. And I actually moved out. A lot of people don't know this, but I moved out to LA to go to seminary because I was like, yeah. I moved out to go to seminary because my thinking was I had already had an MFA and I was already teaching. Like I had a whole other career as a college professor, and I was also making films on the side. I was teaching, and I thought to myself, oh well, I'll just go and get a PhD, and then that way I can still make my films on my own, my own time, but it opens up some avenues for me in academia, because I was like, I just don't know if doing it that way is the way for me. And so when I came out here, I did 2 years of school, and I was like, oh no, this ain't it. And I realized after those 2 years that I still have stories I want to tell. And I don't want to, go the academia route. I want to do production. And what happened was when I came out, I was actually teaching at 2 schools while I was an adjunct. While I was in school, I was teaching school at 2 different universities. Just a mess. Yes. That's what I was saying to myself. What are we doing? You get to a point, you're like, what are we doing here? And I'm driving up and down. Actually, I was teaching at 2 colleges, and I was teaching at a high school up here in Fairfax. Avril, doing the most. And driving up and down the 101, the 134, the 405. You riding to different places to all these things. And it got to a point, both colleges that I was teaching at as an adjunct had full-time positions that came up. And I applied for both of them. And they both said, you're a shoo-in. And then at the last minute, they were like, oh, we decided to give it to someone else. Yeah.
Wow. Guess that shoe didn't fit.
That shoe didn't fit. And so I thought to myself, and I got in my car and cried and the whole thing. But I thought to myself, you are a filmmaker with all this experience behind you. You have 20 some odd years behind you of experience. You are in LA. Bet on yourself, and let's do this. I'm going to go back into production. And I literally threw out all of my teaching stuff, like the books, the projects, everything. I threw it in the trash. I took my resume. I completely revamped my resume. Because, I was like going to conferences and speaking on, conferences and things like that because I was writing chapters in books because I was in academia. I wiped all of that away and started from scratch and said, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going back into production. And I started as a coordinator. I got a job at BET as a coordinator. And even though I had done 2 features, I had already done 2 features at that point. But I was like, this is the restart. And this is why I always tell people, I've just started realizing recently that I'm like, everybody who knows me as a producer, like, this is my second win. You're catching me on the second go round. When you see me in the labs and all this kind of stuff, this is the second go round. And so I'm very grateful. But it was a moment for me, especially throwing out all of that stuff and getting rid of the new. If I could tell just a real quick story, during that time, I remember watching a clip. It was a clip of Steve Harvey. Whatever you feel about Steve Harvey. I was like, okay. But Steve Harvey had this little clip somebody was passing around on the internet. And he told this story about a car. He kept telling his mother, I'm going to get me a new car. And she kept saying to him, but your old car's on blocks outside. And he's like, what you talking about? I'm trying to get a new car. And she's like, yeah, but your old car's on blocks outside. And she would say that every time. And he was like, it wasn't until I realized, like, yeah, I'm trying to do new things. My old car is in the driveway, literally sitting on blocks. And he was like, let me get rid of this car. And then he was like, it's the whole story. Like, he got rid of the car, and then a new car came, blah, 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 blah. But when I was in that moment, when I got denied for that teaching job, it was like, what's my car? And it was teaching. And I was holding on to that as kind of like a safety blanket. And that's why I had to throw it all away. I threw it away. And literally within 2 weeks, everything started to manifest, and it just became a snowball that happened from there.
I love that. So what I'm hearing, because I like to give it back. Yes, give it up. So what I'm hearing is when you're betting on yourself, there are times where there are things that you are so holding on to that won't happen unless you let them go. So sometimes you got to let the things that are. Sometimes you have to let the things that you're holding on to go, because we have two hands for a reason: one to release, one to receive. And if both are closed, you're not going to get anything, right? And then the other thing is sometimes you have to allow yourself to make the decision and understand that once you've made the decision, the universe honors decision. Yes. And so the thing will come, right? The thing will come. All right, Miss Avril. Krystal.
Let me tell you something. I am currently betting on myself. We kind of talked about this a bit before, but I'm on 11 and a half months of being unemployed. There's a reason why I didn't.
Unemployed.
Right.
Funemployed.
Unemployed. It ain't that fun, though. I ain't going to hold you. It was fun the first few months. Now I'm like, oh, I got a bill coming up that need to be paid. And so there's a reason why I try not to talk about the actual organizations I used to work for, because ultimately, so much of my career was spent, like, my worth being attached to what I did. So I was the former senior producer of this, great network and this talk show. But then I realized, like, when that was gone, I started questioning and trying to figure out, well, who am I outside of the senior producer, outside of the award-winning whatever. And I was left with, oh, girl, you don't know what you are separate of your work. So I tried to introduce myself as just, I'm a human being. I'm going through the shit. It's sad, it hurts, it's fun sometimes, but I am so much more than what I do for a living. So I am actively betting on myself. I am doing it afraid, doing it scared, doing it lonely, doing it broke, doing it with a little bit of money sometimes, doing it, a little insecure, a little scared. I'm just doing it. So I'm currently doing it, and we're going to see how this thing work out. Yeah.
Give it up. I will say this. What I'm hearing is that you have begun to make peace with your pieces.
I'm trying.
And that you are understanding that while it doesn't look like what it's supposed to be today, the work to get to what it's supposed to be is happening. And so it's okay so for anyone out there that is in a space, I rolled off, that big old stars project in October. Mommy ain't had a job since, right? So it's very hard when people associate you with your success or what they believe is your worth because it's what you are attached to. So I'm also hearing it is important to disassociate yourself from understanding your worth being your work and understanding that your work is your worth. Right? So,
100%.
Okay. I just want to make sure I know what I'm hearing.
That's it.
Miss Jim.
Well, I'm super inspired just hearing these stories, but I have to say, I commend all of you all for the courage it took as a person who's also recently deciding to bet on myself. When I first moved to LA, I mentioned really briefly that I was an urban planner. I moved out here to work for an organization called the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, so I was doing planning around the homelessness crisis here. And it was really disheartening and a little bit chaotic, and I really didn't know who I was outside of serving other people or other causes. And while all of those things are really important to me, it wasn't until I got the acceptance into AFI that I could fully even actually bet on myself. For those of you who don't know, AFI is the American Film Institute. It's a conservatory program that takes about 2 years of your life, but during the program, you are not allowed to work. So here I was, doing my thing as a senior planner. I'm doing all of this great work in the community, but I had to quit my job. So I didn't have that identity anymore. I didn't have resources, money, or anything to kind of take care of myself, and it was really scary. So I will say, starting at AFI, but even more recently, what I realized going through that experience is that as a producer, for all of the producers up here, you are also still in service of people. And so as I was trying to detach from that aspect of myself, just to understand more about who I was, I realized that I actually can't continue to produce in the way that I was producing. So recently, I decided that I was actually going to pour everything into writing and directing. And so that's been just sort of a thing that's evolved, and yeah, so I'm barely producing. I'm still a producer, I can't help it, but it's really been, I'm thinking about just all of the like friendships I've lost, right? Or people that were there when I was in service of them, but all of those dynamics have changed now because I'm betting on myself. And so there's just been a lot of loss and a lot of grief in that experience, but I encourage anybody who's thinking about doing a thing, just go do it. And the chips will fall where they may. So that was my experience.
Thank you, Jim. So what I'm hearing you say is that for you, betting on yourself was like literally taking a bet, because you had to leave your stability and security to chase the thing. And then after you did that, you had to do it again.
Yeah.
But emotionally more so than fiscally.
Absolutely.
Though fiscal is in there. And so what we also learn is that betting on yourself includes loss. And sometimes it's of friends, sometimes it's of relationships, sometimes it's of money, sometimes it's of status. But in order for you to proceed and move forward, the things that you have to leave behind seem really precious and really valuable, but what's ahead of you is so much more intrinsic value that will lead to fiscal value, so it's worth the bet, right? All of these ladies shared their betting on themselves. I know really quickly for me I was working on Wall Street. I grew up in a very traditional Caribbean and Southern household, and I was like, I had all these I started on Sesame Street. I had a record deal. Y'all don't know me. Clearly, we see how that worked out. And so I moved along through the things, but when I got to wanting to be in film and television as an adult, like my family was like, what are you talking about? And I heard, coming from a West Indian family, Okema, what you want to do as a hobby and real bills require real money and you ain't making no money. Right? And so it was like, you right. And so I went and took my little finance degree and went and took myself to the houses, right? Credit Suisse, BlackRock, Citicorp. My last place, if you saw Inventing Anna, Fortress, that hedge fund, that was the last place I worked. But at 36, I said, I'm done. Because by then I had made a couple of short films. Not so great films, but I had made them. And I had made some award-winning short plays, so I knew I could do some things. And I was like, screw this, because I was going to work every morning in tears, literally crying as I got dressed in the morning. I was like, I can't sustain this. I'm already an emotional behind Capricorn. Like, I can't do this. And so I left at 36, my 6-figure job, and I was on a Lionsgate Code Black film as a PA, making $10 an hour. Working for a 22-year-old fresh out of college. And baby, that was a bet. And so it was quite a while of brokenness and brokenness because I had a family that didn't support. When you broke, don't come looking for me for money because you decided to take your money and throw it away on these things, these dreams. Now I help pay her mortgage. I won't put that out there. So betting on yourself takes balls. Right? And as women, we know, because it's predominantly women or women-presenting individuals in the room, we know that a lot of times the balls on our chest are not respected by the people with balls between their thighs, right? And so we have to remind ourselves that our balls are just as big, if not bigger. Most of the time, I mean, like literally they're bigger. And also for us, because of what's thrown at us and the way that the world sees us and comes at us, they have to be. So all of these women took their big old balls by the hand and used them. So, yup. Yeah, sorry, you wasn't gonna get the traditional host, my bad. So my next question, and I'm only gonna ask this other question so that everyone can answer it, and then if you guys have questions, because I know we don't have a whole heap of time. My next question is about heart. Who is banging in the back, though? Oh, okay. Well, we need y'all to eat, so we're going to just let them go. My next question and my last question is about heart. This business not only takes heart, this business can take your heart. this business will break your heart, right? And so I want to ask each of you, how do you address your heart being broken when the business is who broke it in some way, shape, or form? Because never do we get to talk about this part. Everybody talks about all their accolades, and I work for here, and I did this, and that's all great. But like when the business breaks your heart, that's like a church hurt. Like if you know what that is, that's like a church hurt, baby. That usher done told you something you ain't like. She sat you in the back when you knew you had a seat next to the pastor, like whatever it was, right? So what do you do when the business breaks your heart?
It's such a wow. So my husband and I were, he's my writing partner, and
Hey, John.
Hey, John. And we've written quite a few projects, and we've pitched projects, and we've literally had projects that we've pitched taken from us. Wow. But wait, here's the deep part. And this is the heartbreaking for me, is we'd love you to work on this project.
Oof. I want you to work on that thing I stole from you.
You want me to work on my project that you took all the characters and everything from me and my? So yeah, and that's happened several times. Mm-hmm. So what we realize is this is the business. We are swimming with sharks. Yeah. We are literally in the water with sharks, and we are food, and we understand that. So we're always trying to get away, right? We just have such a healthy relationship, first of all, together, but we also have a healthy relationship with what the business is. Like we know that you know, this is going to happen from time to time. It's going to happen to us. But we also know this. Our projects were that good to be stolen. Now that's the positive part. I'm like, so our projects were the bomb. So we're going to continue, and we've continued, and we've grown. Now we know how to kind of really swim with the sharks and build alliances with whom we need to build alliances with, and stay away from those that we need to stay away from. So it will always be heartbreak. This is what it is. And yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, because it's important, and it also helps me retain, right? What I'm hearing is the business is one of unscrupulous individuals that will then turn around and ask you to help them in their divisive business. Mm-hmm. But you are a creator. Yes. So stealing my things, you're the recipe, so it's not going to come out the same anyway. Correct. Like, you are the secret sauce in this thing. Yes. I don't care if they all fail. Right. Because, you know.
All of them. They all
Because the last time I checked, karma was always about her business.
Come on now. Let's go.
Right.
Yes. Come on. That's it right there. Yeah. Whatever.
Right. But I'm also hearing that you do not let this practice scare you from creating and sharing, still just being more strategic about it.
Correct. Because
I know as creatives, a lot of us are like, oh, well, we got to get them to sign this NDA. I can promise you they won't. Yeah. They won't. They're not going to sign your NDA. No. Only your lateral peers will sign it to appease you. Correct. And still may take your shit. Right. Just saying.
That's real.
But they're not going to sign the NDA. Right. So once you put the thing in the atmosphere, it's in the atmosphere to potentially be taken, but you are you, and you are the secret sauce. Yes. So even if they take it, it's not going to be your stuff. That's right. Right?
That's exactly right.
And if you are a true creator, that one thing is not all you got.
Or the 5 things.
Or the 10 things.
That's right.
Right? You can still make a new thing. You can still, listen, if we can reduce, reuse, and recycle paper and plastic, that's right. We can flip it, what they say, what Missy say? Flip it. Well, that was actually Belle Biv DeVoe, but I'll take it. I was thinking about flipping it and reversing it, but I'll take the BBD one. I was born in the 70s, I get it. BBD was in my childhood too. But you can take that thing and you can reuse it, redo it, flip it, and make it something else that you can take to someone who will honor your intellectual property. And that's the other thing. Before we go to the next person, I just want to say, a lot of times in these meetings that I'm in, these generals, when they're asking about my slate or what I have, they are no longer looking for the thing. They're looking for IP,
Yes.
intellectual property.
Yes.
So for all of my writers, the WGA cert is great, and you get your little certificate and your little number, and that's cute. But it does not legally protect you. Please don't believe the hype.
That's right.
It literally just gives you a registration number so you can prove that someone knows you made the thing. It expires in 5 years.
Wow.
So please, if you're working on that thing you made 5 years ago and all you did was WGA it, it's no longer yours.
Correct.
It is public domain now. So please go take it to copyright.gov, which is good forever. And it's good for the IP, not just the one thing.
That's great.
Little tidbit. So yeah, I see you, Miss Kelly.
Come on now.
Who next? Who next? Who's next? About talking about heartbreak. I see you ready, Krystal. Go ahead.
You know, I think the biggest thing that I've done, because I am experiencing heartbreak, I think is, like giving myself permission to feel it. Not acting like it doesn't bother me and that I'm not sad and that it doesn't suck. Like giving myself permission to be like, oof, yeah, that didn't feel good. And you don't like that. And you're a little jealous of that. And that right there caused a little envy, you know, a little resentment. So I think really being honest with myself along the journey and realizing that there are going to be moments that don't feel good and that is okay. And when I feel that and I see it and I'm scrolling, I'm just like, I feel away. I try to address it immediately. Like, why do you feel that way? Why you roll your eyes at that? Why did you deep sigh?
Why'd you hate like?
Right. Why'd you congratulations, girl? You know, like what was that? Like, catch that, what is that? So I try to address that in the moment and try to really like do my own stuff. You know, because of course the industry is the industry, but like, this gotta be good. If not, then it is going to swallow you up, and it is not kind. And so I just try to give myself permission to feel all my stuff, no matter how ugly or nasty and gross it may be. And I live in it for about 48 hours, and then I say, okay, we got to move on from that.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is being honest with yourself and feeling the things. You don't go through it, you grow through it. It's just how this works. So thank you for that honesty. We have, that signal means I'm done or we got 5 minutes. So what's that mean? Give me the thing. Because y'all, we started a little late, so I'm going to earn my time back. Okay. We have time for one more person to respond, and then I want to open it up for questions, at least 2 or 3 questions, so that the audience feels heard as well. So whoever wants to go, whoever wants to take it. Jem, Avril. We don't have a lot of time, ladies. Pick.
I was just gonna agree. That's all. I was just gonna agree with what, just giving permission to feel, you know, and therapy is a wonderful thing.
Yes, this thing will give you grief.
Like,
but we learned that grief is just love with no place to go, right? So make sure that the place it goes is here.
Can I just add one more thing?
Oh, yes,
I'm sorry.
go for it,
I just
Jen.
want to say
No,
one thing on it, only because I'm so deeply resonating with Krystal right here. As a person coming out of school, and this is what my like 3rd year out, your peers will also break your heart. It's not just the industry at large. I've had a lot of toxic collaborations, and I think that, you know, we all operate from a place of scarcity when we're coming out of school or when you're just new to this industry. So I would just say that, like, for all of y'all who are young and coming up or whatever, like, just remember that you can change the expectation about how these things go. Like, we don't all have to act like this with each other. That's it.
That's right.
Yes, your peers will break your heart, some intentionally, some unintentionally, because there's a difference between loving from a place of love and loving from a place of survival. The scarcity mindset definitely puts you in a place where you don't realize that you are scraping from the other person, and it will still hurt, but giving grace from afar for that to happen, and then recovering for yourself and knowing I don't want to be that person, and doing a self-check to make sure you're not, because sometimes we are the monster we hate and we don't know.
Okay.
So tapping in and checking. We have time for 2 questions. Anybody have a question for any of these lovely ladies? Sir in the back. I love it when it's the men.
Hello, y'all. I realize I'm behind the pillar, so I'm gonna move around.
Yes, please.
My name is Vicky Edwards. Pleasure to meet you all. Tell me about your relationship with failure and how that failure has kind of propelled you to be on the stage as you on today.
2 people. Failure. Jim, go.
So Okema mentioned this film that I have, Pens and Pencils. Check it out on HBO Max. Thank you. So one of the things, I have agents, I'm at Gersh, and I have a manager, and it's all great. But I spent the past year and a half working on the feature version of the film, even though I knew that it was never meant to be a feature. And what has now happened is because my team has now asked me to set it aside because we can't use the script as the proof of concept, the short as it, whatever, fuck it. My point is that the failure, being so new and just now for the first time having people look at my work for the purposes of taking it out and feeling like am I not a good writer because they don't get me? And so having to really start to make choices that are about protecting my sanity and my heart while I continue to do this. But that was my first sort of big moment of somebody being like, yeah, this really isn't where it needs to be. And it's, a year and a half to figure that out. It's a lot
But
of
that's
time.
not failure. I mean, I understand it feels like failure, but
it
that's
feels like
failing
failure.
forward if nothing else.
That's failure.
Because we don't get in the industry the opportunity and the rhythm and the openness to fail forward, but we have to give it to ourselves. So yes,
I
Jim.
appreciate you saying that.
Any other questions? We got time for one more. Yes, sir. I love it when it's the guys.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. Well, my name is Akil Bell. Welcome for y'all coming to LA. Welcome to LA. Keep going forward. I wanted to ask this at the last conversation. But what do you see that's emerging in the field now, right? That folks could tap into from kind of a futuristic framework to say, okay, how do we get out in front of that and ride that energy, that wave that folks can tap into, and also sharing that with the next generation of young folks that are trying to get into this work.
Okay. So his question was, what is the next emerging thing? I think we all are thinking the same thing. The next emerging thing that we can get in front of and how we can share that with the next generation. In my mind, the first thing that pops up is AI. I think we all know that. Does anyone want to address it?
I mean, I'll just share. I heard an interesting interview the other day. I think it was with Patton Oswalt, and he was talking about, you heard that, and he was like, remember when CGI came out, and like that, there was that period between, what was it? It was after some movie, but it was before Matrix. And so I can't remember the name of the movie, the first movie. But when that movie came out, everybody was like, CGI, this is going to be the worst thing. And then there were some people that were like, CGI, this is the best thing. And everybody wanted to do CGI until The Matrix came. And they're like, oh, okay, this is how we can use this to an advantage. And I just thought that was an interesting thought and an interesting way to think of it. Because he was saying, he thinks it's going to be the same way with AI. Like there's going to be some kind of, discovery about how to use it and how to use it well. So it doesn't destroy us. So it doesn't destroy us. Right. And that was the first time I heard someone talk about that in a way that I went, okay, maybe. Because I've been kind of like, I have reservations about it. But I do think it is something we have to get ahead of. But thinking about it from that perspective made me go, okay, like how do we think about this in a way that we're moving forward and that we're part of that, as people of color, that we're part of that, that conversation. Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, I definitely think that we have to, as filmmakers, I know we have to wrap up. I just want to say real quick, like with the AI thing, my take on it is a tool. Now they can the industry's going to do what they want to do and they're going to try to take over yada yada. But for us, it is a tool. It is not a tool to write your script, but it is a great tool to help you write your script. It is not a tool to make your film. Some people are making AI films. I don't feel like they feel like films to me, but like it is a tool to help you make your films, especially when you're first emerging. So I think that we need to look at I know that Harlem Film House, if you follow them, they are doing a lot of stuff in the virtual world, meta and VR and that kind of thing. So following places that look like us and some that don't, because I'm really good at sitting at somebody else's table and bringing the dog bag back home. But going into spaces and seeing what they're doing and bringing it to us to figure out how we can utilize it as tools for our betterment to either save money, save time, get more opportunity, and not being afraid of the thing. Because fearing it is only going to make it bigger than it really is or needs to be. Let's figure out how we can utilize it as a tool so that they can stop thinking they can utilize it as a replacement. So let's remember that with the AI thing, because it's really helpful in the right spaces and places, especially because my decks be pedestrian AF, and AI has made them so much better. They've been, like, my decks are look, my Canva magic design has made my decks sparkle, honey. But I still have to write the copy. I still have to think the things. So let's just make sure that with the AI, we're thinking about how to make it universal for us as a tool so that we are not replaced, because you can't replace this, right? Or this. And so that's the thing. Ladies, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
As we wind this up, I'm just going to ask for 2 seconds, leave the people with something, either how to find you or something you want them to think or feel or know. Let's start with Krystal.
The journey is not one size fits all. It's just not. It's not going to look like anybody else's. It's not going to look, it's just not. And so I think the more that we get comfortable with that, the better that we can manage our expectations.
Don't stop. Keep going, no matter what. Don't stop. Keep going, no matter what.
Jim.
Know what's for you and know what's for sale.
Avril. She's still feeling that one, y'all. We got to go, Avril.
Go in. I lost everything. Just follow Jim.
Follow Jim. Yeah, for the gems.
My last one is, the imposters ain't never had no syndrome. I heard it somewhere. It's not mine, but it's so applicable. Thank you all for coming to this awesome talk. Thank you, ladies, for sharing and being so open and vulnerable with us. Thank you guys for absorbing, and like the energy in here is like literally palpable. They done banging, so that means that lunch probably is en route for anyone who is like me and a little hungry. Thank you to SoulCanvas for giving us this platform, this stage. Thank you to everyone for coming. And please make sure you stick around for the day. There's so much more beauty and lovely things to absorb so that we can be stronger, better creatives out here in whatever form that there are. And find 2 people you don't know and ask them their favorite ice cream. It's a really great way to start a conversation.
Wonderful. You should drop the mic after that. Imposter. Lord heaven.